News Radio 1290, WNBF, and WNBF.com. On this Wednesday morning, I'm Bob Joseph. We are joined now by the Republican candidates for mayor in Johnson City. They're running in a primary election. The election will come up on Tuesday, September 12th. In the WNBF studio in downtown Binghamton is the incumbent mayor, Greg Deemie, and two trustees who are seeking the Republican nomination, Richard Ballas and Martin Meaney. Gentlemen, welcome to our program.
Morning, Bob.
Morning, Bob.
Morning, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, each of you have been in the studio before, and you've heard some of my questions. Some of the things we'll talk about we've already discussed with an interest especially in looking forward to the future of the village, the next 4 years. And I think this is a great opportunity for Republican voters who will be able to go to the polls next Tuesday to learn more about each of the candidates. And hopefully between now and 11 o'clock we can cover a fair amount of ground and help to educate and inform prospective voters. So I thank each of you for being here.
Thank you, Bob, for the opportunity.
Now we'll start off with a brief opening statements, and I'm going to ask each of you, starting with the incumbent mayor, Greg Deemie, why do you want to serve as mayor for the next 4 years?
Well, Bob, it's a great question. It's been asked many times on many media outlets at this point. But my main reason for running is I want to continue to represent the people and what's important to them. I do have a vision for the village. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but really what I'd like is their vision for the village and what they want to see in their village in the future.
Trustee Ballas, you've been on the village board for, I believe, nearly 2 decades. Why do you want to be the village mayor for the next 4 years?
Good morning, listeners out there for Bob Joseph Show. I just wanted to let the residents know of Johnson City, my intention for running for village mayor. And I wanted to run for village of Johnson City mayor since 2012, but with my full-time job at Lockheed Martin, I was unable to commit 100% of my time to run. I have patiently waited to run for village mayor. Our village is in a crucial time in our history, and we don't have time to play politics. Our local economy is suffering, and many of our residents are on fixed incomes. After speaking with hundreds of residents over the last few months, I believe the residents of Johnson City are looking for a change. Out of due respect to Mayor Deemie, they don't want a mayor who keeps voting no on his budgets and tries to take credit for the services we enjoy. I don't believe this is what our residents deserve. We need a mayor who will fight for our taxpayers and supports his budget he presents to the trustees. I have recently retired and have over 35 years of business management and procurement. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Management and Marketing. I've held corporate auditing assignments for IBM and Lockheed Martin. I have negotiated multi-million-dollar contracts with many CEOs. We need leaders that have the right mix of business and government experience and want to apply my past experience and strong work ethic with our business community and let them know that we'll have someone in charge that will be business-friendly and will not stop until we revitalize our downtown, our neighborhoods in decline, and assist our Oakdale Mall neighbors with our encouragement and resources if needed to help us fill those empty anchor storefronts. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Meaney, you've been on the board for a couple of years now?
About 18 months.
Okay. So why do you want to serve as the Johnson City mayor for the next 4 years?
Well, first of all, Bob, I'd like to thank you for hosting us today. I think this is a great opportunity for all of us to reach out to the residents of Johnson City who are listening today. As stated before, I worked for Johnson City for almost 26 years. I've lived in Johnson City my entire life. I deeply care about our village, and I just have come to a point where I want to give back. That's why I ran for trustee. I want to continue to give back, and I feel the best way to do that is through the mayor's chair. Our village is on the cusp of some awesome changes, some great things, a lot of revitalization in our downtown area. However, we're going to need a strong advocate for our residents to make sure that it's done in conjunction with the developers, not them coming to town and saying, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We have to look at different and innovative ways to bring in revenue. Property taxes are not the answer. We have to look at other revenue streams to help offset property taxes and keep them stable. We have to manage our money wisely. We can't spend unnecessarily. We have to look every way we can to save money. And that's our charge. We have to do our due diligence to make sure our residents see their money spent wisely, not wasted.
Thank you. The questions I'm going to ask, nobody has seen. This is unlike some debates where certain candidates get preferential treatment, get a clue of the questions ahead of time. These are questions that only I know about, and each candidate is now going to hear the questions for the first time. I'll ask each candidate to respond as directly as possible to these questions. The first question is for Trustee Meaney. What steps would you like to see taken to make the village of Johnson City safer?
First of all, I'd like to utilize the resources that we have at hand at our state and county level. There's patrols called quality of life patrols, where we can saturate an area, and these patrols will come in and they'll walk the streets, and they will make the undesirable elements feel uncomfortable. They'll write tickets for open bottles, they'll see if people have warrants, and they'll keep moving them on. And our police do a great job, an awesome job, but right now they're undermanned. So that would be step one. Step two would really be to bring back our neighborhood watch and our civilian police academy. There's a lot of petty crime going on in our village. Neighborhood watches would stem this. I think those are two important areas. And then with the civilian police academy, it would just help educate people on situational awareness, what to look for, what to watch for, and when to call.
Trustee Ballas, what steps do you think can be taken to make the village safer in the coming 4 years?
Obviously, public safety is a huge issue, not just in Johnson City, but our entire community. And I do want to engage our current chief, Dodge, if I'm fortunate enough to win the primary and also the November election. I would like to sit down with him and put together a community action team. I'm looking at, it's called Operation Wildcat. Of course, that name may be subject to change after I talk with the chief, but that's what I've come up with. And it's to reduce and prevent crime and provide protective services in our downtown core and high-risk neighborhoods. We obviously have to, look at our high-risk neighborhoods, and we also put in our budget this year to add 2 additional police officers. And once we get those hired, I would like to have those 2 police officers run this Operation Wildcat.
Mayor Deemie, what steps do you think might be taken in the next 4 years to make the village safer?
The next 4 years, what steps should we take? Well, some of these steps we've already taken. I've worked hard with the chief to, as they said, we've added 2 men to the budget. In regards to this community action team, or I forgot what Trustee Meaney called it, a group, we have already reinstated a community action team. They've been in force for the last few months. Whenever the chief has the staff available, he does send people out to oversee open container bicycles on the sidewalks, the warrants, these types of issues. I work closely with the chief for whatever needs is necessary to keep the police working safe, working hard. We've worked closely to bring in the body cams with Senator Akshar, the new laptops we brought in. So we're already working towards what we need to do for the next 4 years for the village to make it a safe and walkable community with all the progress and development we have going on.
Next question is possible changes in emergency services in the village of Johnson City. Mayor Deemie, do you support any changes going forward in the operations or structure of the police or fire departments? In the past, there have been agreements with neighboring municipalities. At one time, there was an agreement involving the police with the city of Binghamton. One time, there was a setup involving the fire department with the village of Endicott. Do you support exploration of any changes in structure or organization of emergency services, which certainly are among the most costly services provided to Johnson City residents?
Good question, Bob. You're absolutely right. Those are our most expensive services in the village, fire and police on top of our DPW too. I'm always open to the opportunity to explore sharing the services with any municipality in order to save, taxpayer dollars on both sides. Would look forward to having a discussion with any of the local municipalities in regards to that. We did share a police chief before. We found out the cost was more for us than as it is now with our own chief. We also felt it was better to have our own chief in both the fire and police department in regards to the operations we have in the village. We really need full-time police, fire and police chief of our own in the village. But I do support sharing services in any way that we can to save our taxpayers money.
Trustee Meaney, do you support any changes in the operations or structure of either the police or fire departments?
I do. First of all, the shared services agreements that the village had in the past, the providers of the administrative services were the true beneficiaries of those contracts. Did not really help the village residents at all, and actually service suffered at the administrative level. I believe that we really need to sit down and take a look at not just the shared service, but let's start trying to merge and combine services to provide a better service for our residents throughout the county. I mean, it could start here. There's nothing more than a imaginary line that runs down the street between Johnson City and Binghamton. Why don't we start to sit down and really look at what do we need to do to merge our public safety services to provide a better service for our residents?
Trustee Ballas, what's your position regarding possible changes in the operations or structure of the village police or fire operations?
Well, I also agree that we have to maintain our staffing, for our police and fire. And if I do become the next mayor, I do plan on putting together some committees to look at doing some possibly some cost-saving measures. A couple of things I'm looking at in the fire department. I was looking at the possibility of doing a hybrid department where you have volunteers and paid working together, just like they do in Norwich, New York. It's happening there. It's something that I would like to bring to the attention to the union, but like I said, we'll have to wait and see if that's something that we can do down the road. There's a bunker program. Bunker programs have been in existence for years. That's something that we could also utilize. With Broome Community College working with us on that. Emergency vehicle for med calls. We need to start looking at getting some emergency vehicles for med calls instead of using our trucks for emergency calls. There's also in the police. I was looking at the possibility of putting together a committee that talks about a package deal where we have police, fire, and EMS all in one. It's happening throughout the U.S. Where you got the police and fire doing similar duties and services. That's something that we could possibly look at. But those are some of the things and some ideas that I have.
This is News Radio 1290, WNBF and WNBF.com. I'm Bob Joseph. Our guests are the three candidates for the Republican nomination for mayor in the village of Johnson City. The primary is coming up next Tuesday, September 12th. The village is likely to experience some big changes over the next few years because of the opening of the Binghamton University Health Sciences Complex. That facility with the future pharmacy school, ultimately the nursing school moving to Corliss Avenue, and a research and development building, plus some other things that have yet to be publicly announced by the universities, has a potential to bring about dramatic changes for that part of Johnson City. Some could be good, some might not be so good for current residents. Trustee Ballas, how do you think the village should prepare for the changes that are inevitable with the opening of the Health Sciences Complex?
Oh, it's fantastic news, obviously. The SUNY pharmacy and the nursing school that's coming in and the retail that's going to come in. It's just going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be a huge boom for this area in our community. You're going to start seeing, and what's important is that I should be sitting down, if I'm, like I said, fortunate enough to be the next mayor, need to sit down with the business developers, stakeholders in our village, our residents, SUNY officials. These are all people that are involved with the downtown investment, and we have to come up with, obviously, I want to see what the plans that are currently out there. I know there is plans to do some further development and want to encourage developers, and we have to market across the U.S., not just in our, local southern tier, but across the U.S., to let them know that we have this university here, because it's going to be very important to all of us.
Mayor Deemie, how should the village, looking ahead for the next 4 years, prepare for the big changes? And some may be positive, some may be negative for some people who currently have homes or businesses in the immediate area.
Very, very good question again, Bob. This is true. It could be positive, it could be negative, but I see more positive in the pharmacy school, the nursing school, the research facility, the Century Sunrise Project. All of this is going to only bring growth and prosperity to that part of the village. We've been working hard already in a lot of areas for this possible growth of close to possibly 5,000 students, teachers, faculty and staff and others that are going to be there. We're actually working on a project right now through the county. It's a Main Street study through the BOA opportunity, the Brownfield Opportunity Area, with Bergman Associates in regards to what we need to do in the downtown area because of this growth. So we are looking forward to the future and what we need to do. As said before, we need to look at our public safety to make sure things are in place for a nice, safe, walkable community down there. And I think, as you said, I see more positives, I see negatives. Yeah, there's going to be possible negatives. There's a possibility of housing, being changed or removed due to blighted properties and those types of issues. But in reality, I think it's going to be a positive. We'll be, talking to business owners, talking to developers, working towards the future of the village.
Trustee Meaney, what steps do you think the village can take to prepare for potential good changes and possibly some negative impact because of the dramatic influx of students and others coming into that particular area of Johnson City?
First, I want to address, from what, in my opinion, what I've seen is the only negative so far is the displacement of some longtime residents in that area. We have to work to make sure that, and some of these people are, they rely on public transportation, and they rely on the closeness to the services that are downtown. So we have to try to find some means to make sure that we keep them, along with welcoming the new students and the ancillary staff from Binghamton University. There's going to be tremendous growth through our downtown. There's going to be tremendous changes. We need to work closely with the Binghamton University officials. We need to work closely with the developers to make sure that it's not just the vision of Binghamton University or the developers, but it's the vision for all of Johnson City, for all of the residents. The Bergman Group's a great group. We need to work closely with them. We need to work more with them. Right now, communication is lacking on what is going on with our village, and I think communication is key. We need to get the word out. We need to get everybody involved in the development of downtown, the redevelopment of downtown. We can't just sit in a corner with a few people to do that. We need to market it. Like Trustee Ballas says, I've been a proponent of this. We had a couple of functions that I attended, and one was at Binghamton Brewery, and it was great. Bergman put on an awesome informational session, but everybody that was there knows about it. We need to get the word out. We need to expand our market to let everybody know the great things that are coming.
In Johnson City, similar to elsewhere in the Triple Cities, there are pockets of poverty. There are a lot of people in the village of Johnson City who are not doing well and sometimes may feel that they're being overlooked in the grand scheme of things. Our next question is, what can be done to assist those residents who do live in some of Johnson City's poorest neighborhoods? And we'll start with Trustee Meaney.
Fortunately or unfortunately, some of the poorest neighborhoods are where this redevelopment is taking place. So like I stated earlier, we need to sit down and we need to bring in the developers and the vision people and say, what can we do to keep these residents instead of displacing them? Again, with a lot of blight, we need, I believe, a really strict and tough lockdown law to remove the blight, to go after the absentee landlords to remove the blight. And once we start making this a little bit more inviting, people will come and it'll pick people up. We also have to try to develop some type of program to get these people some type of sustainable income. Those are things we need to look at.
Trustee Meaney, what are your thoughts on helping those who live in the poorer neighborhoods of the village?
In Ballas?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Trustee Ballas, I'm sorry.
He's getting two questions.
That's all right. The next one.
Right. Well, obviously, we're very concerned with the low income sections of our community, and I know that we have state and federal opportunities out there to help with assistance with those types of homes for the low income family. We've done, Mayor Deemie and our board has done a couple things to try to put some state funding type of homes in there to supplement some of the low income. I agree with Trustee Meaney talking about the lockdown law. Obviously, we got to strengthen that law, but most importantly, I don't want to penalize people low income or regardless of income. What I would like to be more business friendly also to the downtown and to those people that are low income, and come up with a plan to try to do some tax breaks. I know a lot of people want to fix up their properties. They want to put a new roof on. They want to put some siding on. I would like to institute, maybe the first year or two, no permit fees. Give people an opportunity to fix up their properties and stop asking them for permit fees and additional taxes.
Mayor Deemie, your thoughts looking forward the next 4 years to helping some of the people who live in the poorer neighborhoods of the village?
Well, as Trustee Meaney, Trustee Ballas has stated, it is a big job. There is many pockets of poverty within the village. What we have done is we have what's called a zombie properties grant that we are working on that is to target a lot of these blighted or pockets of poverty within the village. And what that will do is it helps us create a plan moving forward in order to help these residents in regards to keeping them in their homes so there is no foreclosures, it doesn't become a blighted property. Also to work with some of these landlords, businesses too, so we don't have this problem going forward like we had at 38 St. Charles Street the other day, 219 Main Street. There are also programs within the Town of Union in regards to tax breaks to work on your properties, to improve your properties too. So we do have programs in place that we've been working on that we will continue to work on to help those in need and move forward into the future of the village, because if we don't do this, we're not going to move forward. So, but there are programs in place and we've been working on them now.
Next question revolves around what has been the premier retail center in Broome County for decades, but now it's facing big challenges, perhaps challenges many of us could not have foreseen as recently as 15 or 20 years ago. Should village government be working with the operators of the Oakdale Mall to develop new strategies or concepts for that property? And Mayor Deemie, I'll ask you to respond first to this.
I agree, Bob. As it comes to the Oakdale Mall, we need to be working with them, talking to them. I've been trying to set up some time to go visit with the management team over there so we can see what their plans are for the future. At this time, there's been many rumors out there, as we've talked before on your show, about what could possibly be going in there, what may go in there. I've talked to others out there, developers and so forth, that have seen other malls in other areas. They become a different entity altogether. They become possibly housing. They possibly become a business park. There's a possibility that a big company could come in and take it over. So what I've been thinking about is, like I said, is going over to discuss with them what their thoughts are moving forward at this point. As they, as we've heard too, there's possibly JCPenney may be leaving too. They've got word out there on that. So the goal is to keep in touch with them. See, hopefully there's some thoughts on their end what's going to be moving forward. But there are opportunities out there. It's it does have a future, and it's a big future for the village.
Trustee Meaney, should village government be working with the operators of the Oakdale Mall to help develop new strategies or concepts for that key property?
Absolutely, Bob. From what I've been told, the mall's not going anywhere. They feel strong about the location. They feel strong about the opportunities coming to the mall. It's not just the mall, though. We have to work with all retail, all developers, everybody in the village to make sure we can maintain what we have and we can grow on what we have. The mall's got a great location. It's got a great a base of operations. There's still 2 strong anchor stores there with possibly a third coming in. So I think we should maintain a positive view and a positive outlook on what's going to happen with the mall. And again, with the Binghamton University changes coming to Johnson City, I think that's just going to bolster what's going to come to the mall.
Trustee Ballas, should the village government be working with the mall operators to develop new strategies or concepts?
Oh, yes, most definitely. I agree that we need to get in contact with the business manager. Right now, I did reach out to the business manager, Courtney Rosa, who is the current business manager over there. But I think obviously that person has to meet with the mayor and also the trustees and talk to us about what's going on over there at the Oakdale Mall. I mean, obviously we're all very concerned. I mean, it's a huge tax base for our village. We're talking about these anchor stores. Also, I heard about Burlington also, and then, we got Gander Mountain down the street. Within 2 miles, you've got major stores that are leaving, our village, and we have to work hard, with the Oakdale Mall management to see if we can, also provide some of our resources. We have an economic development department down in the town of Union. We should utilize their services to see if we can possibly, help the Oakdale Mall management with this process.
Next question for our candidates for the Republican nomination for Johnson City Mayor involves trash collection and public works operations. Trustee Ballas, would you support any changes in Johnson City's trash collection or other public works operations?
Well, we've been working hard with, Bob Bennett, who is the superintendent of public works, and also Mike Sherba. And over the years, we've made, a few changes. We did make a change in the alternate street parking. That's for road services, obviously, but in terms of garbage detail, I think they're doing an excellent job. I haven't heard too many complaints out there from residents in terms of garbage pickup. Like I said, I think they're doing an excellent job, and even with the short staff that they have.
Mayor Deemie, would you support considering any changes either in trash collections or other services provided by the village public works crews?
In regards to the public works, Bob, I feel they're doing a great job now. We get a great service for what the cost is for that service. They pretty much clean up everything that's put out to the curb. There has been times over the years where people have asked, why don't we go to the bag system? That has been studied. It wasn't cost effective. So the system we have now in regards to trash collection and the DPW, I think, is the best for our village at this point. I know there was some study done during the dissolution time, and it was found that what we have is really good for our village and what we need. So at this point, I think we have the best what we need to do for going forward.
Trustee Meaney, you support reviewing or considering any possible changes pertaining to trash collection or other operations provided by Public Works?
I couldn't agree more with Trustee Ballas and Mayor Deemie. Our DPW, they do an awesome job, whether it's collecting trash, snow removal, maintaining our parks, taking care of the roads. If we could generate more revenue from outside sources, I would like to see maybe hiring a few more people for the public works so we can maintain our streets a little bit better. It's tough, they are short-staffed and they do a lot of work. It's not a large village, but it's a very compact and busy village that sees a lot of transient population throughout the day, and they do a great job of keeping it up. But I think they could use a little bit of help doing that as well.
Mayor Deemie a moment ago referenced what I think was one of the tougher chapters in recent memory in the village of Johnson City, and that dealt with dissolution. And key portions of the village were really divided over that issue. I suspect at some point that's going to come up again. Can't say if that would be in the next 4 years or the next 10 years, but given demographic trends in this region and pressures for local governments to sometimes consolidate, it's very possible that the matter of dissolving the village could be brought up again. Trustee Meaney, what are your thoughts on that if that is something that eventually gains some traction, say in the next 4 years. It's not currently on the agenda, but it's conceivable it would be. What are your thoughts, given especially what happened with the last debate and ultimately the decision not to dissolve?
Well, granted, it was a slim margin, but it was still a margin in majority rules in this country. I personally have lived in the village my whole life. I care deeply about the village. I'm passionate about the village. If I wasn't this committed to our village, I wouldn't be in your studio today. I think we have a lot of committed people. We have great changes coming. And dissolution, at the end of the day, it was defeated. I would not support it. I believe that the savings that were portrayed weren't there. And I think that's why it was voted down. And it did divide the village, and we can't continue to go on like that. Our country is divided enough as it is. We should all come together, and we should work forward for the betterment of our village, so we could see it grow, so we could see it become a viable community again. And dissolution will not do that.
Mayor Deemie, what are your thoughts? And certainly, it's, although years have passed, it's still a pretty fresh memory for many people in Johnson City. What went on with the debate and ultimately the final decision regarding dissolution? If talk like that starts up again, what are your thoughts on such a possibility?
Well, as you stated, it was many years ago that we had the dissolution discussion amongst all the village residents. My wife and I sat through pretty much every dissolution meeting there was, and I have to agree with Trustee Meaney. The savings were not there, otherwise it would have passed. I would have been for it at the time if I felt it was the right thing for the village, but it wasn't. If it comes up again, we have to look at it again and decide, is this going to be a good savings? This is a good thing for the village. Will it come up? I don't know. As you stated, the village is still divided on that. As for shared services and so forth, that's part of Governor Cuomo's plan, is to add more shared services. So is this part of that? It could be to, move forward doing that versus dissolving, is to share services. But dissolution, it could come up, it may come up, it may not come up. But as you stated, I was there for the whole, dissolution process before, and if it comes up again, we'd have to really look at it hard. It's a different process now than it was before. The board can actually initialize a dissolution if they want to by resolution and start the process. It goes a lot quicker. So in my mind, whether it was good or bad, we don't know at this point. We're still moving forward as a village, and as Trustee Meaney said, that's why I'm here today.
And Trustee Ballas, what are your thoughts? Of course, you went through that process as well with
Right.
other Johnson City residents. If there, at some point in the next 4 years, starts to become talk again of re-examining the dissolution issue, what would you be considering?
Well, for dissolution, I think, both of us, that are here talking about dissolution, I mean, we all agree that that's a viable opportunity for the residents to explore. It's happened in the past. I mean, it's up to the residents. I mean, they're the ones that are paying the taxes. We are the employees, and they're the employers. So if they want to look at dissolution, again, that's up to them. I mean, we don't actually have to, like Mayor Deemie said, there's a different process out there. Where I believe that you put it up for vote, and then you put a plan together. Back in, when we originally did it, there was a plan, and then you voted on it. But like I said, it's up to the residents. But I think that no vote that we had way back is a huge message, to us, our village board, that we have to look at consolidation, sharing of services. These are the things that, residents are looking for. I think dissolution, a lot of times should be, probably our last resort, because what we got to do is make sure that we are giving the residents the best services that they can get at the best cost. And that's important. I think that's what the residents look for. Every year we have a tax cap. Tax cap is a huge burden on all municipalities out there. The tax cap, we're looking at 1%, 2%. Trying to run a village of $32 million budget and keeping it under 1% or 2% is very difficult. But it's happened. I mean, this past budget, 17 and 18, we had a budget with less than 1%. We went under the tax cap, but it was very tough to get there. But like I said, residents, They want us to provide quality services, but at a very competitive price.
Johnson City is one of the owners of the joint sewage treatment plant across the river in Vestal. A lot of people, whether they live in the village of Johnson City, the city of Binghamton, or other municipalities that are served by the treatment facility, wonder about the overall operations of that facility. Trustee Ballas, are you satisfied with the way the plant is being operated, the oversight, the work that's being done? There's now a project that ultimately is going to cost more than $300 million. Satisfied with the operations, or should changes be made?
Well, I think, we've been talking about the sewage treatment plant for years and the way that's been operated, and we've definitely made some changes over there over, the last 10 years or so in terms of management and how we're working to operate that facility. In the past, we had discussions about privatization, of the plant. Should we look at selling, to a third part, outside company that's interested in purchasing that company? I mean, that was explored years ago, but it didn't go anywhere. So you got to look at options. What can we do to try to improve the operating management of the the sewage treatment plant? Obviously, it's a huge expense to the taxpayers, the municipalities that have to pay for these services. But like I said, maybe even set up a committee to investigate some of these ideas that we can try to do to improve the cost savings, over there at the plant, as a suggestion.
Trustee Meaney, are you satisfied with the operations of the plant, or should changes be considered?
Well, always changes should be considered when you're talking about something that vast. Right now it's going through more or less a total rebuild of the plant, and we're limited because we have to build a plant that can sustain the waste sent to it on the footprint of a plant that handled a lot less waste when it was originally designed. So that's a huge challenge. And once we get through this challenge, again, we're going to have good management. I think we have good management there now, but we could improve on that. There's different systems being incorporated into this plant, which will manage our solid wastes better and hopefully more efficiently. So at the end of the day, it is a huge expense, but we're limited on where we could put the plant. And that's just the nature of the beast. So we should be able to operate it more efficiently. And again, once it's up and running, I believe next year is supposed to be the date that we're up and running, that we continually look at it to management more efficiently and less costly.
Mayor Deemie, what's your overall assessment of the operations of the plant on Vestal Road and whether changes need to be considered?
Well, I have to agree with Trustee Meaney. He's on the JSTP committee, so he's pretty familiar with a lot of what's going on over there, myself too. Yes, the plant is functioning. It's functioning to what it needs to be now, but it was built back in 1965 is when it started. So it was built to, as he said, support a area that it is, is a lot larger than, or smaller than it is now. So do we need to look at change? Yeah, we need to look at possibly ways of managing over there, different ways of doing things, possibly, as Trustee Ballas said, privatization. It's things we need to look at. We have to look at everything we need to do. As was stated, the plant should be functioning more efficiently once it's up and running, more state-of-the-art. So there's possibly in savings in the amount of personnel needed to run the plant. So there could be some savings there. And if it's going to be running more efficiently, we should be doing savings there on a lot of the chemicals and the items that are needed to run the plant. So I believe it is needs to be looked at. It always needs to be looked at. Something of that size, that complexity needs to be managed well.
We're talking with the candidates for the Republican nomination for mayor in the village of Johnson City. The primary coming up in 6 days, next Tuesday. Greg Deemie, Richard Ballas, Martin Meaney are with us in the studio. Now, a few days ago, residents of Johnson City received a mailer, and I understand that the mailing has created some controversy. And Mayor Deemie, this mailing was put out supporting your campaign. Was this designed and paid for by you?
It was designed and paid for by the citizens to elect Greg Deemie, yes.
So did you have an input and ultimately sign off on that mailer that was received a few days ago?
Yes, I did.
And you fully support everything that was in it?
I fully support everything that was in it, yes.
All right. Trustee Ballas, what are your thoughts about that mailer?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was very disappointed in Mayor Deemie by sending out that flyer because I thought this campaign was to talk about the issues and concerns that the village residents want to hear. They don't want to hear negative campaigning. And Mayor Deemie stepped over the line by sending that negative flyer out. There's some comments that I would just like to make on the flyer that he made, and I'll talk about what he said in the flyer about his record. He said Greg Deemie voted no on moving code to the town of Union. Deemie helped bring over $133 million in investment in Johnson City. He voted no on borrowing $1.2 million for a new fire truck. He consistently objected to budgets which included excessive borrowing. Mayor Deemie has been voting no on his budgets for the last 3 out of the 4 years because he says he doesn't want to borrow. But with the sewage treatment plant, he has no problems in voting for borrowing over there, but for the necessities that we need in the village, like garbage trucks, police vehicles, fixing our roof over at the village hall, he votes no against that. So he's not being very consistent, and he needs to be honest with the taxpayers he's dealing with.
Trustee Meaney, what did you think about the flyer that was sent out and received by many residents on Saturday?
I was taken aback by it. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was a little below the belt. Again, we wanted to try to stay positive, and I have to agree with Trustee Ballas on the budgets. The mayor presents the budgets to the board, and then we go through line by line. It's a painstaking process that we need to do because that's our job. We have no problem doing it. But it's his budget that we analyze. And at the end of the day, he votes no on his own budget. And then he claims that we're voting no on spending. In August, we had many bond resolutions. Over $2 million, close to $2.5 million, the mayor voted in favor of borrowing. So the statements are untrue in that. And it's just not right. The ancient history that he brought up with the firefighters contract, at the end of the day, it saved the taxpayers $18 million. So again, why are we bringing these things up? What positives are we working for? A lot of his plans, programs, and initiatives take board action. And the board does act on those when we feel they're in the best interests of our taxpayers. And I just think that what he did doesn't focus on any platform other than taking cheap shots at myself and Trustee Ballas.
Mayor Deemie, respond.
Well, in response to the mailer, yes, I did vote no on the budgets. The budgets are the board's budget. I present the budget, yes, but and ultimately in the end, it's all 5 of us have to vote yes or no on the budget, whether we agree to it or not. As for the borrowing, yes, I did vote yes to some items that were necessary, and I stated at the board meetings why I voted the way I did in regards to the budgets. I wasn't happy with the borrowing, the amount of borrowing that's going on. Some of it's covered by grants, so it'll be reimbursed. As for the fire department statements, I just wonder what the setbacks are that Trustee Meaney's going to, fix, once he becomes mayor, according to his statement up at the Union website. So I'm always looking at what's fiscally responsible for the village. As I said, the borrowing's been going up exponentially every year in regards to many things. I had to discuss heavily with the board to get that garbage truck, hopefully, which we need on a daily basis, versus a $1.2 million ladder truck for the fire department. So I'm trying to look out for the best interests of the taxpayers and what's more important to them and what's going to be best done for them.
Trustee Meaney?
Yes, in regards to the issues with the fire department. When that was posted, the fire department had been without a contract for many years. The police department is currently without a contract for many years. Our bond rating has suffered because of that. So that means when we need to borrow money, we're paying a higher interest rate because the Deemie administration has not been able to settle the public safety contracts for a long time. Since he's been in office, they've been expired. Once these contracts become ratified, hopefully our bond rating will drop and we will be able to save money on our borrowing.
Mayor,
Trustee Ballas.
I just say this. I want to make just additional comment on the flyer and some remarks that Mayor Deemie made in the flyer. And when he sent out a flyer and he said that he implemented spending controls for departments, and he's creating a code study committee to develop a report on the current code, and he's done a lot with Parks and Recreation. But when you vote no on your budget, that means you're not financing those services that he says he's trying to take credit for. You can't do that. That's not being fiscally responsible, and you're not being a manager and letting the people know that you're voting on a budget, but then you go and tell the people that you're taking credit for some of these things that that you didn't take credit for because you voted no on the budget.
Mayor Deemie.
In response to that, the voting no on the budgets, I've stated in every budget board meeting that the budget is fine. It's the borrowing that I have a problem with, that it's gone up exponentially every year. As for the Moody's...
Excuse me, but you continue to vote for the resolutions that allow us to borrow the money.
I did vote for some of those. I absolutely did, because they were broken down into separate resolutions. This year, typically, it's one resolution. This year, it was separate resolutions. I voted no on 2 of them. The rest I voted yes, because they were necessary resolutions. Some were covered by grants. As for the Moody's rating, the contracts are a small piece of that Moody's rating, and it hasn't impacted us yet. It could down the road, but it hasn't impacted our borrowing yet. It also looked at our economic climate here. It also looked at the fact that the mall was losing business. So there's many other elements that they looked at besides the 2 contracts in regards to the Moody's rating and why it went down. We're not the only community in this boat right here with the rating. There's many others that, for some reason, this has been a year where Moody's has downgraded a lot of other communities to what's called, I believe, the BA1 rating. So, as I said, there's other elements in regards to the Moody's rating that downgraded us, not just the 2 contracts.
We only have a minute or so left. I would allow each of you just a moment, very briefly, to put one final plug in, starting with Trustee Meaney.
Again, thanks again for having us on the show today, Bob. And I just think it's time for a change. Somebody who's not been in politics, somebody who's looking forward and wants to work hard to make our village the best it possibly can be. Thank you.
Trustee Ballas, a brief closing statement.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I appreciate being here for talking about the village issues. And it's important that residents of Johnson City can vote in this election on September 12th and hear each candidate talk about their future. I have a plan. I have a vision for the future, and I'm going to be communicating that more to the public over the next few days.
And Mayor Deemie, just brief closing words.
Bob, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the listeners out there. At this point, what I'd like to say is the future of Johnson City is at risk. Now is not the time for a change in leadership. And I respectfully ask for your vote on September 12th. As I stated, as you've heard today, the future of Johnson City is at risk, and we need to make the right decision when it comes September 12th, noon to 9. Thank you, Bob.
Greg Deemie, Richard Ballas, Martin Meaney, Republican candidates. The primary is next Tuesday. The winner will face Democrat Andrew Holbert in November. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.